Hey,
Hey, good to see you, man. Aaron,
yeah, you too.
I got you here on the SwanRacing.com podcast. I think this is episode, I don't know, something in the 30s, 31, 30.
29, I thought, man, maybe 31.
Well, I have a few of them already recorded that I don't have published, so I still have a few in the queue for me to
Oh, got it.
put out there that are just waiting for me to work on. So welcome on here. Thanks for coming on here and just talking to me for about an hour or so today on this nice Sunday morning. It's the 27th of December, almost done with the year. So tell me what's going on with your year this so far, this crazy COVID 2020.
Man, what a year. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Let's see, if we start back in January, right, because that's when the year starts. I had done a track day up at, or down at Jennings. I'm up in Atlanta. And then a week later, I'm laying in a foam pit with my son with my patella tendon ruptured and starting that whole process. So that was how my year began before COVID and lockdowns and everything crazy started happening. I'm laying there with, no control over my leg. That was fantastic. So
tell me what happened to your leg, and are you doing better from that now?
Oh yeah, I'm really doing well now. It's actually like it's been this whole process. Actually, it's kind of a long story without getting too detailed. Yeah, we do have time. Yeah, a lot of people when you start talking about this, they go like, "Oh yeah, just give me a short version," and I'm like, "There isn't."
Right.
Yeah. So back when I was in the Marines, 2004, I was in a helicopter crash, and that destroyed my right ankle.
That's
pretty much. Yeah, that was fun. But because of that, what happens is you have a joint that doesn't really work well on one side. And because you're in the Marines, you're expected to perform and do all these things. So you continue to run and pound out the miles and that type of thing. And I took a toll on my left knee. So as the years went on and I got older, or whatever you want to call it, it started tearing. Didn't tear all the way through, just started, slicing into it, if you will. And just eventually it got to the point where I couldn't run anymore. I couldn't really, actually do my job. So after getting out, I wasn't running anymore. So kind of put a Band-Aid on it. And let's see, that was 2004. So yeah, this year, talking about 16 years later, finally, I took a jump off a little platform. I dropped off onto like this angled trampoline and tried to do this backflip because I was trying to show my 8-year-old son how it's done, And as soon as I hit that trampoline, it went boom, popped midair. I did the flip, landed, was great. I'm laying in this foam pit, looking up at the ceiling with my leg just curled back. I couldn't do anything about it, writhing. Yeah, that was fun.
Wrong.
What's that?
You just knew something was wrong.
Oh, dude, midair. I heard it snap, thought it was like a gunshot. And then in the air, I could tell, something very bad had just happened. I felt the adrenaline kick. I've been injured a bunch before, so it was not unfamiliar to have that feeling. And I'm laying there like, all right, what happened? And then, yeah, my leg just snapped back on me because you can't control it. Your thigh isn't connected to your knee.
Right, yeah.
And, it just pulled back, 90 degrees. And, oh, man, that was very painful. So, anyway, that's how my year started.
Yeah, and you're a motorcycle racer. You've been injured, I'm sure, before for racing, and that's something that you just have to accept with the sport. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, and that was the biggest part. Was actually sitting there trying to go like, okay, I'm laying in the bed, with a freaking 10-inch cut in my knee, where the surgeons went in there and stitched it back up. Actually, it was kind of interesting. They took my kneecap out, and then they drilled like holes through it, if you will, or like that,
yeah.
And then sort of laced my tendon back through my kneecap and then stuck it all back together,
It's amazing what they can do now.
Yeah, man. I looked up surgery pictures of that, and made my stomach turn a little bit. So if anybody's into looking at that kind of thing, go look it up. It's pretty wild. And
what was the procedure that you had?
What's that?
What was the procedure called that you had?
I don't actually know the name of the procedure. It's a standard patella tendon rupture. In fact, they were telling me it was supposed to be really quick, like an hour and a half, like the whole thing, because it happens kind of often, I guess. But I had torn some other stuff in there that they had to stitch back up, so it kind of made it like a 4-hour surgery. Stuff that they couldn't see on the MRI apparently. But
right.
If you go look at your knee and all the little like pieces that go through your knee, the little bitty muscles and stuff like that, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong once that goes.
Yeah, for sure. The body is a very intricate place. You don't want to injure shoulders or knees. They're terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole year I've been, I went to rehab, and actually was trying to, do things according to what the doctors were doing. And obviously I'm not knocking on what they're doing, but they had probably a less expectations about what I was, trying to do. I'm sitting there like still thinking in my head, I can still make the season, because here comes, the Weir Southeast regionals and stuff like that. And I'm gonna get back on the bike here in May and this kind of thing, and I'm gonna go be awesome.
It's
So
possible. I mean, if you have the best doctors and you're spending 100% your free time just training and recovering, maybe, maybe
yeah,
if you got those doctors are gonna plate it or something and get you out there in the next 3 days, right?
yeah. Well, at least I'm not. I don't have Mark Marquez's doctors, because otherwise I'd still be in a surgery or have
Right.
my
Yeah.
leg cut open or something like that. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, I just, laying in the bed there, I kept moving my knee and that kind of thing, because having busted my ankle, actually I've broken a bunch of different joints, but having done that before, I was like, I'm not gonna just sit here and be sedentary with my leg. I kept like bending it, moving it, moving it, moving it, even no matter how much it hurt. And they tell you, if it hurts, don't do it because that's painful, and this type of thing. And I'm
Sometimes.
just like, yeah, the pain is a body's signal to say, hey, this is not good. But other times it's that thing you have to push through in order to get where you're trying to go. And I was trying to get back up on my feet as soon as possible. So,
Yeah.
which actually did happen. I was actually walking around. Let's see, I had the surgery on the 17th of January. I was walking around by Valentine's Day with a cane.
Wow, that's
So
pretty cool.
as long as you're, well, I mean, yeah, I had a brace on, stuff like that. I wasn't actually like fully fit in anything, but
Still.
yeah, it's been up until, gosh, man, even up until like October, still like a very, very stiff movement. I have to get on a recumbent bicycle just to work out, just to get moving, just to get the actual joint moving again. That's been a big challenge, man. That's been hard, but
It's safe to say,
it's a challenge. That's why we do it.
yeah, safe to say this year wasn't so much filled with motorcycle racing.
You know, it wasn't, but then again, it was compared to my other years. So nothing really happened. The first sort of 3 months of the year, right? For one thing, we had the lockdowns, and for another thing, I was busted up laying there. But I did make an effort, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Roebling Road Raceway in Savannah, Georgia. I think it was May 16th, 17th weekend, something like that. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. So I got both my bikes ready. Yeah, while I'm recovering, I actually took the chance to take my Ninja 300 completely down to the frame
Okay.
and replace the head gasket and just get the injectors clean and do a bunch
You know,
of
the
little
little
BS on it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just all that small things that you don't actually need. No, but yeah, it was pretty in depth, but it allowed me to take my mind off of sitting there going, I can't ride my bike, and
Give you something to
allowed
do.
me just to sit there
Get your
and
mind
yeah.
off of it, but still be in the motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. And so I took every day as it came and just was like, all right, I'm just gonna do this one little thing over here and do this, and just made little tiny goals and milestones for myself and just kept hitting them. And yeah, we made it to Roebling on the 17th, 16th, 17th, and I actually raced, and it was hard, man. It was not easy, even on Ninja 300. I
Yeah.
mean, those are really notoriously for being very easy to ride. And yeah, it was pretty hard to wipe me out.
Well,
So
you've been off the bike for so long, you forget about all those little muscle groups you haven't been using or training and get
oh man.
fit.
Oh yeah, especially because you can't train at all, And before, honestly, like my weight has always been a thing I've struggled with, and I wasn't exactly in great shape when I blew my knee out, and then having all this happen, I decided, okay, I'm going to get in shape. So, but I can't because my knee's blown out. So I was sitting there like in this catch-22. So all I could do was just focus on what I could focus on,
Yeah.
and that was my diet. So I really paid big attention to exactly what was going into my body and didn't make a lot of headway, while you're laying there. But I did make the mental dedication and discipline and got that going before I had to get up and start moving around again. So
Yeah.
that really that paid dividends, because after May things started picking up and I actually started racing a lot more. And yeah, so the year really actually turned out pretty not bad, I will say.
Yeah, and it's just so easy to eat the wrong thing too many times, or it's annoying for me and I'm sure everybody to have to look at every single label and to say, okay, can I eat this? Is this healthy enough? Does this have 77 grams of sugar in it and all this sodium? Am I gonna have a heart attack if I eat this every day for years?
Dude, yeah, man, it's sad because the American diet is made up so much of processed items. You go to the grocery store, you go to anywhere where you can get a meal quickly, and it's just processed, man. Like all the steps that goes into making the food. And it's not so much, if you peel the onion back, and I can get really political really quick on that. I don't want to do that because it get boring. But it's it really boils down to money, and what people are trying to do with the food industry, and are they making money or not? If you sell someone a steak, dollar for pound, a steak doesn't earn you that much. But if you sell them that same pound in Pop-Tarts, you're making a killing, because the dollar amount goes up and your actual cost is extremely low. So anyway, and that's how we're set up now. So yeah, if you want to pay attention to your food intake and what actually happens in your body with the type of food you put in it, you can't have it easy. It's not easy. You have to go out and do the hard thing, which is think 3 days ahead of the time and prepare your own food, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, meal prepping. And I have some family members who have some health issues now, and I've seen them go through whether it's getting off of dairy or gluten or any of these different different food groups. It's a major thing. People joke about it sometimes, like, oh, gluten isn't real, or gluten intolerance isn't real. But I've seen it firsthand. Even dairy products, all kinds of different products people are sensitive to. So going through that process of eliminating those items from your diet is a huge process that you have to be so disciplined and so dedicated to. People don't see the behind the scenes of every time you got to go to a restaurant, you have to make sure that they follow these protocols, and there's just certain restaurants they can't eat at. So it's like, oh, going out to eat, I can't go these places, I can't go these places. Like, okay, well, where can you go? Like, let's start with those places first,
Yeah, it kind of sucks because you're the whatever, the odd man out, the weird guy. Come on, man, just we just want to go to Olive Garden or whatever. Nothing against Olive Garden in particular, but pick a restaurant, right? We can always bash on fast food, but it really does put you in that place where you kind of can't do the things that everybody else does. So you kind of become a hermit. So if you're okay with that, living that type of lifestyle is great. But if you're not, man, that's gonna be rough. But yeah, eliminating different food groups is important. But I think that if Americans just looked at the process side of it, if anything that comes out of a wrapper or goes when you open it, if you eliminate or reduce those things, man, a lot of people would just turn their health around like dramatically. And then drink water. That's the other side. Gosh, man, drink water.
If you didn't buy food with labels, like you just bought actual real food, then everything would solve itself. But
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Like this industrial revolution, it's great. Here, check out these little packages of food that you can sit in front of your TV and just put them in a microwave and they work, and it's highly convenient, coming out of the 1940s and 50s and all that kind of thing. And then look where we are now. So we have to kind of regress on that one a little bit to get Americans' health back. But yeah, man, it's just sometimes the simplest answers we go, no, it can't be that. It's got to be something more. Like I'm not standing up and sitting down enough or something like that. I don't know. Right. But yeah, like for me personally, when I blew my knee out, I was 275 pounds, something like that. And I've been on this little weight loss journey, if you will, for a couple of years now. But I was up over 300 pounds, like 305, 310 pounds, something like that. Trying to ride an R1, 2009 R1, and trying to be fast and that kind of thing. Because, in my head, I'm fast. And then I look at my body, I'm like, I'm good, man. Still got it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I need to know exhaust, right?
Yeah. Got to throw that pipe on there, man. It's got to go work. That's what will make me go faster. Yeah, so I would do that, man. I'd tell you what, I was at Jennings. It was 2016. I was down at Jennings, in the winter again, and I couldn't make 4 laps. I couldn't do 4 laps. I was running like minute 35s. What's that?
Wanted without being too tired, wanting to come.
Oh yeah. I would run a minute 35, like 2 laps in a row, and then struggle for a 3rd lap, and then realize on my 4th that I wasn't going to make it. Come into hot pit and sit there and, and just struggling. And I don't know why, but we always lie to ourselves, or we make allowances for ourselves and go, oh, it's okay, man, because, you went out and didn't eat that candy bar that one time. It's like, that's not enough, it isn't. So I've been trying to lose weight since then. I'd gotten down up into the beginning of this year. I got down pretty far, I'm talking 30 pounds, something like that. So it's not a little bit, but at 275, even then, thinking I could make it. Yeah, and after my knee surgery, we started to do some other races and stuff like that. Still thinking, I don't need to lose that much weight. I just need to work out harder, right? Went and did an endurance race with some buddies, and just thoroughly embarrassed myself to the point where I was like, that is never going to happen again. I mean, I got out there and I did, I don't know, 20-minute stint on the bike, which is a typical track day session, and like twice as long as a sprint race. So that's fine. But when you're endurance racing and you're trying to be like 4 guys in a 4-hour endurance race, you figure 1 hour each, right? Well, anybody can do that. It's just a machine. You just twist the throttle and you go faster.
Right, you just
I couldn't do it. Yeah, I know. It's like you don't have to do anything because it's doing it for you. But no, it really did show me. I was like, gosh, man, I was so embarrassed. So I went back and I said, okay, I am going to go full retard on this, and I'm actually going to get to where I want to be. And now 6 months later, I'm knocking on the door of the 220s and realizing, oh yeah, this is what it's like to actually be in shape. Because I've done racing since then, and just seeing how much more you can do just by losing a little bit of weight. And anyway, I would encourage everybody to take a look at their program and actually go, maybe I can improve there, because you can. And that's important. Yeah. We need to.
And they say every ounce counts. And when you have a lot of extra ounces, you're going a lot slower.
Yeah. And we all love those titanium rotor bolts and the whatever lightweight this and the carbon fiber wheels and, these type of things. I'm going to get carbon fiber bodywork, and a titanium exhaust, because that's going to be the thing that helps me out. It's like, dude, why don't you go drop 20 pounds? I think most of us, well, not most of us, most Americans will probably drop 20 pounds. Most racers, maybe not, but
yeah, when you are, I've been pretty good with my weight. I've never been one to indulge too much in like fast food or fatty foods. I'm not perfect. I don't have a really strict diet, but I try to stay pretty healthy. And I'm usually around 150 to 160. My race weight, if I'm really trying, I can get down to 145 or even a little lower if I want to, but that's being really strict. And, I don't have a piece of candy. I don't have a piece of candy in the house. I don't have ice cream. I have some chips that are like healthy multi-grain chips. I don't really gravitate to snacking. It's just become like a lifestyle. Like what I'm drinking now, I'm not sponsored by them. It's just Guru energy water. It's just carbonated water and some caffeine, instead of having a Monster or a Red Bull, which I used to have all the time, which is, you're having a lot of sugar. Some of them are zero sugar, but it's just choices. Every time you open your mouth and put something in it, it's going to have an effect. So I look at food very much as a purpose thing, not so much enjoyment. I mean, there's that side of it too, but for me, I'm always the guy who says I'd rather have less seasoning and less sauces rather than more flavor, right? Because I don't want the extra sodium. I don't want the extra whatever, even though it might be so minuscule. People are like, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter. To me, I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, you got bigger goals than that, it depends on what your goals are. I want to race. I want to be competitive. Right now I'm just a pack muncher, club racer. It's not really nothing to write home about right now. But I'm looking at what I could be just from doing that type of thing. And basically where you're at mentally, I just wish I had sort of your body size. That'd be outstanding.
Yeah.
But I honestly, if we have to look at ourselves, separately in that, I'll never be 145 pounds unless I'm dying or something.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, if I hit 200, we're good. We're going to be in there.
Everybody's different, man. You can't compare yourself to the next guy. It's so easy, but it's hard because you'll never be me and I'll never be you. I will never be a linebacker. It's never going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it. Everybody looks on the Instagram and they see these people and they just go, oh my gosh, Instagram is the social media of envy, because we all wish we could do whatever it is we're looking at, instead of maybe being inspired by that. So that's one of the things, like on my profile, I specifically pull out the things that I'm not doing good or I am weak on. I go, hey guys, check this out. I failed here. And just show people that, so that no one's getting up there and they're going, gee, I wish I was like this guy. I'd rather show you all the hard things and go, life's not easy. We are human here. Okay. So let's show the human side of all this.
You should look to post some photos that are not showing you in your best light also, right? Because every other photo is curated of, hey, this is my best side. This is my best side. People don't see the hardships as much.
Nope. Yeah, I posted one up recently, actually, where it was one of those like looking back moments where it was actually a picture from that endurance race. I'm sitting there in my leathers, and you can see my freaking gut hanging out. I'm just looking like, man, a cheeseburger would be great right about now. And I was just like, hey guys, check it out. Here I am, 275 pounds, whatever. Not doing so hot.
Yeah.
And I really want, if anybody's going to follow me or anything like that, I want you to see basically everything. I don't want to obviously show you every last detail of my life, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here and put on this front like somehow it's so much better over here, because it's not. We all struggle like that. So
yeah,
good
and
grief.
people like to see that. People like to see you being real. And just like I was so nervous with doing this podcast, oh, people are going to see who you really are. Well, I'm not a bad person, so that's fine,
Yeah, like you can walk up to somebody at a track day and go, hey guy, my name is Eric and I do things, and it's the same thing. You just gotta sort of let it all hang out, I guess, and realize it's not the big deal. It's honestly, I felt the same thing when I started doing more YouTube stuff, and I do all my own editing, and sometimes it sucks, man. Like sometimes I just get it wrong.
Yeah.
And I put it out there anyway, because I'm like, screw it. I did it. And I learned something from how to do it or not to do it. And I get people on there who are like, oh, you're so slow, or oh my gosh, your editing is horrible. And they just say all these things. And you go, yeah, you're right. All right, next. Like, move on. I don't care.
Take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't, it just rolls off my back. It's whatever. I can't wait to have haters, because that means that people are actually watching.
Yeah, actually, it does mean that. If you got just a bunch of like 2 or 3 or 4 sort of thumbs up, if you will, your family members came on there and they were like, yeah, good job, and which is good. That's encouraging. But when you start seeing sort of more and maybe negatives, you go, so here they are. Here's the real people. Now let's see what they're saying, because maybe they're going to tell me something that I can use. And I can actually go, oh yeah, they're right. I can actually do better over here. Let me go over there and look at it. See if I can do better that way.
So. Like, I am not a great podcast editor. Lately, I haven't even been listening to them after I record them, which is a tip I would recommend, because it would be half the time of doing it. So I've just been splicing the beginning of the end when we first connect. That's the first scene that you guys see, and then the end of it, I just splice the end, so we're not 30 seconds of dead space at the end.
Right.
And then my intros with the mechanical indent and my logo. And then sometimes I'll put a commercial on it, but I haven't even been doing those lately. I've been just trying to keep it just the talk. So it's pretty simple. I mean, I wish that I could pay someone to do it for me, because it's a simple process. It just takes time. And then
it does, yeah.
One of the hardest parts for me to do is just putting it online, because I put it to YouTube, I put it to Anchor, I put it to Patreon, and Instagram TV, and then Instagram as photos. So it's like, that's a whole bunch of different posts you have to do. And a lot of the time it doesn't go up the first time. So it's like, you do it, all these different websites at once, and then you walk away for a couple hours and you're like, I hope it worked. And one of them says failed or unable to process. Like, okay.
Yeah, let me do this again.
Why did it not work this time? So I wish that part was easier, but it's, and also maybe scheduling, getting guests scheduled would be nice to have that taken away. But that's hard to feed off to somebody else to do, because you have to interact with these people to get it scheduled.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, how did you meet and that kind of thing, and what you're going to talk about, and it kind of, if you just, I don't know, it's almost like you have to be big enough, if you will, to get to that place, which it'll get there. It's all about how do you build, and you have to build by starting, putting one brick down and then sticking another brick on top of it, and just keep going up from there. So it's just a matter of keep doing what you're doing. Honestly, I didn't even know about your podcast until somewhat recently. It was before you asked me to come on, and I saw you talking to a couple of different guys, and there was one, what was it, number 28? I can't remember his name. It was spelled, it was a U-L and a bunch of other stuff.
Is it Jason?
Yeah.
Jason Uribe.
Yeah. He's a really quick guy, and I was like, dang, this guy's talking to some real people, I mean, like, I see me and I'm like, I'm nobody. I'm just some dude on Instagram, who's putting up video. That's it, nothing big. And you're talking to this dude over here. I was like, oh, okay, that guy's pretty quick.
Yeah, man, I've been reaching out to superstars with no expectation of any even response, and like, I was searching for somebody in the Jays, and Jamie Foxx came up. I was like, I'm gonna send it to him,
Why not?
If he says yes, great. If he even sees it and maybe says, maybe, that's great. I'm not looking for anything at this point. So I've been reaching out to hundreds of people, international racers, Moto3 racers, like British Superbike. I just got Andrew Lee on. I don't think that one's
Nice.
yet. So he raced in Suzuka 8-hour, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And just trying to, I really want to talk to a lot of different people, not just motorsports, but in the motorsports area, track day guys, street riders, racers, international racers, mechanics, just get the people's perspective, get the race crew, maybe even get a race official like WERA or CCS or Moto America.
That would be nice.
I would just
talk to anybody down in sorry, man.
I just want to get the people's perspective and just talk to everybody.
Yeah, and that's, and it's so important. You just keep throwing it out there. It's like you're never going to catch any fish without any line in the water.
Yeah.
So you got to keep throwing your hook out, and eventually you'll pull in somebody, and obviously it'll go from there, And talking to the club racer side, I think that could really be a good avenue because, coming from a club racer, just like I said, just a normal pack munchie, there's not a whole lot of stuff going on in club racing right now that's super exciting. It is for us because we're there and we're trying to do our best.
Yeah.
And but no one comes out to that. No one comes and watches, we're at Talladega GP. Okay.
Yeah.
Some people do, honestly, but it's mostly friends and family. And I think that there's been kind of this talk around the paddock, like track day organizations are ruining road racing. And I don't see it that way. I see it as road racing is not taking advantage of track day riders. There's a lot of fast guys in the advanced group, that just sort of look at it and they go, you know what, $200, $250 to go ride all day on my, Ducati freaking V4 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go past my buddies and put up cool things on Instagram. I get the exact same feel and feedback as if I were to go race, except I don't have a trophy.
Yeah.
But I think that's where club racing like WERA and Florida Motorcycle Road Racing Association, I think I said that right, and a few of the other ones, they could really dive in and they could really do something if they got a hold of the track day guys and be like, hey, you think you're fast now? Why don't you come out and prove yourself?
Right.
Come out here and actually do it.
They don't really target them as hard as they could. But that's where I came from. I think that's where most people come from is I did track days and I was already passing people who are racing, saying to myself, why am I not racing if I'm already passing this expert and I'm an amateur, advanced track day guy.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do it and see how it goes. And the first year I won 3 championships. Like,
dude, that's awesome, man.
It's
I mean, like looking at the wall behind you, obviously it's showing off that you're not a slow guy, certainly. Yeah. But that's the thing, that's where track day riders need to look at that and they need to go, oh yeah, there's actually a challenge there. Not that track day, riding isn't challenging.
There's just no definitive anything. There's no the scoring. There's no lap chart. There's no, where'd you start? Where'd you finish? How'd you do? It's just on your own, which is great. And for me, it was great practice. But until you actually get on track with another rider in a more competitive setting, like it doesn't matter if you win or not. The whole thing is like, how did you do and how did you feel on the bike? And for me, it was always, well, I just want to get better. And turns out getting better makes you go faster.
Imagine that. Yeah. I mean, dude, that's exactly my thought. I look at racing and I just want to be around faster people. Advanced group guys, that's good. They're quick. But honestly, if you get around racing and get around a racing weekend, it's completely different. Like just when you leave the pits and this, it's immediately it's turned on. Boom, you're going.
Yeah.
And go out to a track day. I remember shooting the last time I was out at Carolina Motorsports Park. I'm running around on my 300. Went out the first. I'm on the out lap, and I about rear-ended some guys on 600s on the front straightaway because they came out of the last corner and we're just chill. Like we're just gonna chill and whatever. I'm on 300, like I'm already freaking. It's been 2 minutes. I'm already rocking and rolling. And I'm freaking pinned. I just happen to look down my tachometer and I look up and all I see is the rear end of some bike. And I had to freaking boom, like this. And I'm like, guys, come on. Okay, this is a 300. I don't do but 100 miles an hour tops. And you're cruising, it's a mentality difference.
Right. I mean,
racing, man, it's another level.
Sometimes that even happens. Like I have a video on YouTube somewhere of me at Road Atlanta on a warm-up lap. at the Wera National, the Cycle Jam, I think it was. And I'm in a 600 class and getting to the grid back straight away. You know, I'm warming up. I'm trying to go 100% on warm up or 95, whatever.
Yeah.
Until the last couple of corners, and then I'm going 150, maybe touching 160 miles an hour, full flat out in the back straightaway, and I'm coming up to a group of riders doing about 100 miles slower than I am.
Ugh.
I'm like, oh God. And, you know, full rear tires off the ground, going sideways type of thing.
Yep.
All the way on the edge of the curbing now in the braking zone. Because there was nowhere else for me to go. I'm doing that and got it stopped. But it's like, this is a national race event. Why the hell are you guys going 100 miles slower than you should be on the back straightaway on the warm-up lap of a race? It's like, what is happening here? So you still get some people making mistakes. You get mistakes everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it happens.
The race events are much more, everybody's on their game more. Everybody knows what to do more. You get the higher level of competition, higher level of competency most of the time.
Yeah, it was like the first time I actually raced my 600, my 2005, you know, Kawasaki ZX6. This year, I ran it at Talladega, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go in there, run 2 races for 2 days in a row, and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna see where my fitness is at, because this is where I had just gotten into, I can ride hard again. I can actually work out. You know, my knee was still bothering me. So July, and I get out there and I'm running around, and I've got like Jason De Silva and some guys like that, and they go by you like you're not even trying, and it's humbling, but you go, I can do that. I see what you're doing there, and you try to latch on to somebody like that, or it was impossible, but you try to latch on to the guys who are just a little bit quicker than you, and that for me, that's why I go. I don't necessarily care so much about the result. Of course I do, but I care about the fact that if I can latch on to somebody who I see is faster than me, I can see their data, on Speed Hive, and actually know, yeah, they are faster than you. And then latch on to them, hang with them, maybe see what kind of line they're doing. That, man, it's so invaluable. And then when I go to track days, you can apply that to practice, and all of a sudden you're like one of the really fast guys at a track day, and you go, oh, okay, that's nice.
That's good. For sure.
Yeah, it feels real good.
I think it must have been 8 or 9 years ago, I went to a track day up in Michigan here called Gingerman. And I was just starting out, I was just doing track days, maybe just dip my toes into racing a little bit as a novice racer. And some guy comes up to me, I had never met him, and he goes, "You are one of the fastest guys on the track. Can I put my lap timer on your bike to get your data?" I'm like, "Sure, that's awesome. Like,
wow.
Go for it,
Dude, that's a huge compliment, man. That's big.
He goes, I've been watching you, and you're one of the fastest guys. I want to do this and get your data so I can learn from you, and like give me your feedback." And he told me at one of the corners, I was braking like 30 feet later than he was, and getting on the gas sooner than he was off of the brakes, and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm just going around the track and just practicing. This is like my 10th track day,
Yeah, like I'm just chilling, kind of.
Yeah. So
dude, that's I had something similar, and it was not like that. No one gave me the lap timer, but I was at it was a Friday before a race weekend, and I had a guy I had a ZX10 at the time, and I was in an advanced group. I had just barely made it into it, and this other guy was an intermediate, and because of the amount of people that were there that day, they joined the groups, so they had 2 30-minute sessions, on the hour. And this guy was like, "Hey, can I follow you around? I don't want to be too slow in advanced group. Just give me a tow." Okay. So we're riding around. I didn't think anything of it. And I end up seeing him like partway through the session. And I go, okay, he must have just fell back a little bit. No problem. And we get around the front straightaway. This is at Talladega GP again, and going into turn 1. And I just go in like I normally go in. I didn't do anything sort of different. Anyway, finish the session and come back around. He's like, "Dude, I almost wrecked. I can't believe it. I was following you, and I don't know what you did, but I got on the gas and about threw myself over the handlebars because you just freaking sauntered off and like this and that kind of thing." And like, what happened? He's like, "I don't know. You were going so much faster. I just had to get on the gas." Anyway, it was this moment where I realized that, you can be quicker without actually trying harder and that type of thing. And it was just like, oh, wow, I almost made a guy wreck, and I wasn't actually, being stupid about it. So yeah, these little things like that. You're kind of little nuggets. You're like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, for sure. And there's people who I try to be reasonable on the street. I don't ride on the street anymore. I just drive my truck on the street. And I had my friend come up to me. We were just driving home from mountain biking one day. He's like, "Man, you drive like you race. Like people shouldn't follow you when they're driving."
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like,
I
"You
don't
went
ride on
into
the
that
street either, man.
U-turn."
I done
Yeah,
some stupid things. I'm good.
he's like, "You went into that U-turn about 45 miles an hour." I got it stopped. I didn't have any problem.
Yeah, I drive a van, to and from work. It's this old Caravan. It's got about 350,000 miles on it, but there's no payments,
Yeah.
and it gets good gas miles and it hauls my track bike, stuff like that. So people kind of look at that and they go, "You race? What? Like you got this family van?" I go, "Yeah, because I get all my speed, adrenaline junkie stuff from that, so I don't need to worry about what I drive every day."
Yeah.
But I wear the brakes out on that thing sort of constantly, like twice as fast as anybody else. And my wife's always like, "You're always constantly wearing the brakes out." And I go, I don't know. That's because I'm being an idiot and like trying to actually outbrake people in the corners
Right.
because they are faster than me, but I'm like, I can outbrake you.
Yeah. It's so easy to get into that habit of doing that, but it's fun. And so you've been
It is
racing
what it is.
600 and you've been racing a 1000, is that right?
Yeah. So I was the typical street guy, street Rossi, who's going to go out on track and show everybody how it's done, So I had a 1000 for a few years, actually. I had jumped off an R6, thinking, I need more power because I'm not going fast enough, So clearly it was the machine, it couldn't be me. I'm street Rossi, clearly. So I jumped on this R1 and did a bunch of things to it, everything short of building the motor, wasn't going fast enough. And on a whim, I decided to get a ZX10, 2016 ZX10. And that bike was on another level compared to the R1. Really good machine, though. I miss it. And I, again, continue with the mantra of, horsepower is a lap time. So I just kept digging away and digging away and digging a bigger hole for myself. Had KWS, put a big motor in it. And it's pushing 205 horsepower with pump gas,
Wow.
So it was serious. Kit ECU, all the goodies, right? And still, again, my lap times were not there. And anyway, it took riding those machines for years, and I mean years. I'm talking like 2015 till sort of the end of 2018, so like 3.5 years, something like that, of seeking horsepower as a lap time. And yeah, man, I got to that point where I was like, stop. You're really being stupid. You're doing that thing where you're coming out of the last corner at Roebling, passing 3 guys, all the way down the straightaway, and then parking it into turn 1 and putting the training wheels out and, going around the corner like that. And yeah, so I decided that was not going to be me. I made the decision to jump off that bike and to get on something a lot less capable. So that's where I got the 05, ZX6.
Okay.
Buddy of mine had one, and it was kind of in pieces, and it needed parts, and it just wasn't running. So I said, all right, screw it. Sold the ZX10, like flat out, just 11 grand. There you go. Bye-bye. Of course, I had like 20,000 in there, something like that.
Of course, all upgrades.
Yeah. Gosh, man, it's so stupid. But anyway, looking back on it, it's probably one of the best things I ever did was sell that bike, get on this 2005, old machine, right? 15-odd-year-old machine. And I have yet to put any actual power into that machine. I put an exhaust on it because I think that's what everybody does with track bikes. I put an exhaust on it, and that's it. It's stock suspension, stock brakes. Okay, I put brake pads in it, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't have a Brembo master cylinder, this type of thing. Yeah, I got stainless steel brake lines. I got all the little track day stuff, things you need.
Yeah.
But as far as power goes, it's making like last time I dynoed, it was 102 horsepower, something like that.
I started on a clapped out 636 at the track.
Nice.
It was slow. It was very slow. It was my bike at the time, and it made me like. There's videos of me on at Black Hawk Farms in Illinois, just getting past in the straightaway, and I'm sure that was because of my corner speed out of the last corner, also. But it's visibly very slow, and so it forces you to be great on the brakes, to be great in the corners, to be great everywhere else that matters about your actual riding. Because once you're on the straightaway, just clicking gears, sure, you can have a great technique of when you're hitting the shifter or whatever, but it's very minor. So everything else is you dependent on how to make it get around the track faster. So I never was able to afford making my bike the best. I was never able to, buy all the bits and pieces. I never used a quick shifter, well, until like the last event that I ever raced in.
Nice.
Almost all the races I had, I didn't even have a quick shifter. And I spent money on me, getting myself better. I spent money on lots of track days, lots of practice time, seat time, doing 6 or 7 races a weekend. So tons of race experience.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
Yeah, and the big thing is I did speed academies. So I did a couple different. I did a pro school to get my license and work with a one-on-one instructor who was a former pro racer. I worked with Jason DeSalvo Speed Academy, which is no longer in existence, but I'm sure there's a lot of other ones. Like there's Yamaha Championship Riding School. There's STT has a one-on-one program, Sport Bike Track Time, and there's a lot of other organizations that have training. There's Colin Edwards Texas Tornado Boot Camp that I would love to go to. I don't really have much dirt training, but all of those training programs I think are way more valuable than any quick shifter, than any exhaust, than any set of tires that you can get. Just learning how to have confidence and ride within your own limits, within yourself, is the biggest thing for any racer. Because I remember one time my dad said, my dad doesn't come from racing family, he doesn't know anything about it. He's like, how do you think, or why do you think you can do that, like, and not get hurt? Why do you think you can go through that corner that way? He's like, Dad, because I've done it like 1,000 times, because I've done it. I can feel it now. And once you can feel it, you have this confidence. And I probably would have never been doing this type of podcast without that type of confidence, or start a business without that confidence. So it's given me a lot of confidence I can take into other areas of my life and try to be successful with that as well.
Yeah, it's huge, man. It's that willingness to fail.
Yeah.
Like you're going to fail forward or something like that. You're like, you know what? I could crash and burn on this, but I'd rather try and maybe not succeed and have that experience, or at least, hey, I tried and I did succeed. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the training side of it, that's the other side. Like I took all that money that I was spending on machines, and $3,500 on a motor, and decided, well, maybe that's not where I should put that money. Let me go to something like corner spin.
Yeah.
And let me invest in a mini bike and these type of things. So I spent $800 on a YZ85 with 17-inch rims, and Heron Compound is 2.5 hours from me. And I've probably spun, I don't know, 200 laps there, just on off and on going there. And I got into mini bike racing with South Carolina Mini GP, which is actually now this year, Michael, Corey, I can't say his last name. It starts with a C, but Michael, the owner, they made it a national thing. So mini bikes are making this resurgence in America. I don't know if they were ever really big to begin with, but they're certainly looking more like our European counterparts. And that, man, gosh, just being on a mini bike with dirt experience, and I say that like that for a reason. And I'm going to backtrack for a second. We look back in the 80s or late 70s, early 80s, when Americans were up in the 500 GPs and they were dominating. King Kenny comes to mind, Eddie Lawson, a few other guys. And that's because, the bikes weren't super great at cornering. So, and the tires weren't good. So, you rode them like a dirt bike, or riding them like a dirt bike, like a flat track bike, was the way to go fast. So Americans, we have a lot of land, we have a lot of dirt. So let's go play in the dirt. And that's where those guys went on through and dominated for so many decades. But now they're not, so and I think there's a reason to that. And we still think that the dirt is the ultimate way forward. That's the thing that's going to put Americans on the map. And I believe it helps, but I don't believe it's the final answer. And that's where mini bike racing, I think, is really going to be a big thing. Transferring that feel you get from the dirt over to asphalt, and understanding, because there is a difference. They're similar, but there is a difference. And that's where, like, I love corner spin. Aaron Stevenson down there runs a really good program. He's got a lot of really quick guys that coach. He's got a lot of really quick people that train with him. A lot of Moto America guys will go down there. Stefano Mesa comes to mind. A lot of young kids who are in the Ovale Junior Cup, I think is the name of it, with Moto America. Watched some really fast kids that actually train with him to actually also race with this mini GP thing that I'm talking about on ovales. And what they're doing with dirt bikes, they're able at, they're very young and sponge-like mind, pushing into a corner with a flat track, where they're actually plowing the front end. Then they go out on asphalt and they realize, holy crap, I can do the same thing, but I have traction. So I can go so much more fast into a corner, and just that connection they're making. I think, man, in the next 15 years, I think we're going to see something really special come out of America, and maybe even a world champion. Like Joe Roberts is obviously doing some good things up there, and we got Garrett Gerloff, and now Cam Bobier is going to get up in the World Superbike, and it's exciting, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited for all of it, and Cam being in there, that's a new thing for him. He's been in the World International stage before, I think, with the Red Bull Rookies Cup years ago.
Yep. He was actually teammates to Mark Marquez, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008.
Isn't it crazy how just a slightly different path of careers makes you a several-time U.S. champion versus a several-time world champion?
Yep. Yeah, and you look at how Cam, when he goes out there and he's dominating like 2 seconds a lap, you're just going like, dude, what are you doing? I get it. He's making money and he doesn't really have to sort of be challenged. I can't say that I don't envy that lifestyle, but at the same time, man, go on the world stage, go out there. I know he's had opportunities.
It's time. Well, I'm sure that it just was maybe deals that weren't perfect machinery. Like maybe it wasn't the salary or the machinery or the crew. I mean, there's so many things that have to come together.
Oh, sure.
There wasn't an offer. Maybe this was the first time.
Yeah, it's true. We've had some guys go over there and not do so well, and then maybe put a little bit of a bad light on American racers. Josh Herron comes to mind. He's a quick guy, and I think he's great in the U.S. And I think that he could be really good on a world scene. He's just got to do some things differently.
I think Josh kind of got the short end of the stick in that deal. He was on some probably not world-class machinery in the first year, and then the guy that they replaced him with did the same as he did. It wasn't like he was just getting first or second after he was replaced, and Josh was the issue. That wasn't it at all. It was it's extremely competitive. Not the best stuff. And your first year at all these brand new tracks, you're not going to be at the front. It's just not going to happen.
That is rough. Yeah, when he couldn't finish the year, it was just like, dang, man.
Not even a full year. Like, you got to have at least 2 years.
Yeah.
To get a serious try out of that. I want to go back to the mini stuff a little bit. I think they could have an entire series dedicated to minis. So you should maybe cut it off at the 400s. Keep that with the road race.
Yeah.
But I say you could fill time and make entertainment and grow these children's careers better if you had like a 50, if you had an 88, maybe 100, maybe like a 110, a 160, a 190. That's like 5 or 6 classes you could have right there, under 250 cc's, and maybe 50 cc is as your main
the super bike of it all.
Right. So
so looking at the mini bike racing that I've been to, and I went to a lot this year. That was one of the things when, like I said, I wasn't able to ride a whole lot. I was able to do mini bike racing because that is very easy on you as physically. The hard part is when you're talking about like 50s and 88s and things like that, is you can't really run those on a big track, because even like
a kart track.
Yeah, you would have to be places with kart tracks. VIR is a great place for that because you can run, we're a main event at VIR North, and there's a kart track. CMP is another great one for that. Carolina Motorsports Park, for those who don't know who CMP is. Those places, that is fantastic. And that's actually one of the things that I was doing was I would go to Carolina Motorsports Park and I would race on a Saturday on a mini bike and then do a track day on my 300, the next day at the big track. And just that translation, the thing about a mini bike is it's not intimidating. The fastest you'll ever possibly go on like a 4-stroke. This year I was on a TTR 125.
Downhill and full tuck.
Yeah, full tuck, downhill with a tailwind, you're doing 40 miles an hour. You know what I mean? Like struggling, right? And So you can throw it into these corners and you're already so low to the ground. And you know that if you throw the bike down, you know, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know, you might bend a peg, you know, or not even bend a peg because they fold, you know, you might bend a shift lever or something like that. You're not going to get hurt because you're going to slide for about 10 feet and stop because you're not going fast. You know what I mean? Like you can do all that stuff. You bang into people and it doesn't matter because it's just like running down the hallway and just bumping into the guy next to you. That's how fast you're going.
Right.
So you can do really stupid things on it. You can really push the limits. I mean, shoot, I don't know how many times on like stock Bridgestone, what are they, BT45s? I'd go into these corners, like the last corner at the CMP kart track is really fast. And of course, it's the last corner onto a long straightaway. So with no power, you're doing everything you can to carry as much momentum onto that straightaway. And I'd come through there just absolutely pinned, you know, clicking through the gears and the front's just going across the asphalt, you know, and you just like, oh, screw it. If I die, I die. You know, you're not going to die. It's just that mentality. It's great.
You feel like you, but yeah, you can push through it. There's so many times where even on a bigger bike, I remember being at like Nelson Ledges, for example. Nelson Ledges, when I was riding it before they repaved it, you're just pushing the front. It's sliding everywhere. And from doing that, you learn really throttle control. You learn to be smooth with your throttle because there were times where the front is completely tucked. You're going down. But because you had good throttle control, it picks itself back up sometimes and
yes, it does.
Save it. So it's like, oh, wow, how did that happen? You know,
that can actually happen. Yeah, it's like you realize you're doing the thing that you see people do and you go, oh man, so that's how that works, you know, and that's where you start understanding like load, you know, the weight on one end of the bike or the other. And this guy right here, the right hand, you know, with the brake and the throttle has so much control over that. But yeah, you can't really find that limit until you go over it.
Right.
That's the other side that people don't like talking about. They don't want to go over that limit because maybe they'll wreck their pretty bike. I don't know.
And you know, something you mentioned there is the weight balance. The weight transfer is so important for getting the power down to the ground smoothly and not spinning the tires. You can't just whack the throttle on or whack the brakes on or grab a handful of brakes, however you want to say it. You know, you have to be really smooth with it. And even when you're first opening the throttle, that first initial open of the throttle is when you start to move. Say you're on the brakes, you get off the brakes, it unweights, and now you get onto the throttle a little bit. And you don't even have to be on it hard, but just getting that open transfers everything so you can get it on harder in a second.
Yep. Yeah, just that quick little open. And it's something that, you know, I think the new leader bikes or even any bikes with electronics now are not helping our sport, because if you go back to that whole track day mentality, you know, I'm not gonna say you're a rich kid or anybody else, or I'm a rich kid or anything like that, but you know, we can afford a $10,000 sort of couple 3-year-old machine. An R1 comes to mind because they have probably some of the best electronics. You know, BMWs are good too, and you can just be stupid. I mean, stupid with the throttle. You know, the only place that you're really gonna have to watch out for and be a rider is with the brakes. And even then, if it's got ABS, you can kind of just grab the brakes. You know, and that kind of mentality, it scares me, you know. It doesn't scare me. It concerns me that these are the guys going out there, they're getting their Instagram photos and they're looking awesome. And, you know, they're doing all these things, sliding the bike on entry and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, turn all that stuff off.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now?
I've never used electronics. I've never had wheelie control or ABS or traction control or any of that stuff. So I think it could be helpful. It could be beneficial, but it's not necessary. You don't need it. It's
not
a crutch, in my opinion. And there's so many people who they ended up taking it off or reducing traction control because all it does in the end is it cuts your engine power. And if it's cutting your engine power, that's stopping you from going forward.
Right. And if you understand what the tire is doing, if you can feel the tire spinning or not, and how that works, you can actually take advantage of the fact that, you know, the tire is spinning. You can turn the bike with the tire.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that dirt training, you know, so it all kind of goes together. My ZX10, for instance, you know, like I said, I was a Nabo with it, a squid or whatever you want to call it. But I did get to understand what it was like to ride a 200 plus horsepower machine with really no traction control, because the electronics we loaded up in it at KWS, they were not new rider friendly. Okay. Like I can go back through my data and I had an AIM, what do they call it? It's whatever, the AIM dash that you can get for it. And I can show you my data, and the traction control didn't kick on hardly at all because it was left wide open, because that bike, likes to turn with the gas. And, I can actually show you videos where I'm actually stepping the bike out, learning how to ride the bike. I was still slow. Okay. Like, let's be honest. I'm not trying to say I was, Jonathan Ray over here. It's not the case, but on big machines like that, when you start actually opening the throttle up in the right way, you can start realizing, you're not going to get high sided. I've got data where I was going down and clicking into third gear with the rear wheel doing about 20 miles an hour faster than the front wheel. And, granted, the tire was a little bit old at that point, but still, like, people who rely on the electronics, they just take a chance, man. Turn it off. It's fine. Sure. You're not going to get sent to the moon.
And from being around motorsports so long, rear wheel slippage is normal. It's a part of turning.
It's how the bike works.
Yeah. It sounds really scary. It sounds scary, and it sounds like when you tell someone, "Oh yeah, my rear tire is just sliding all over the place." I'm not really drifting, but this is just how you accelerate the fastest out of this corner. It sounds scary, but in practice, you don't do that the first time. You don't do that the first lap for your first lap. You work up to it, and you slowly go faster, and you're like, okay, well, this works, and I didn't tie myself to the moon. Let's try another step forward.
Yeah, they're not that uncontrollable. I mean, they do have massive power, and they can spit you off like that. I have been chucked out of the seat on more than one occasion on my 1000s, and fortunately, I haven't actually made a solid impact with the earth yet. But yeah, if you do it wrong, you can get chucked out. But at the same time, if you're not trying and not getting chucked off the seat, you're never really going to understand what is that like.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, even with stock electronics, my ZX10 was still doing 5 miles an hour quicker than the rear wheel was doing 5 miles an hour faster than the front wheel.
Yeah.
And that's stock electronics with me just going, really pathetic with the throttle. So.
And like I mentioned, I was watching some endurance racing, the Suzuka stuff, trying to stay up with Andrew Lee. Have you been following any of the endurance racing over the past couple of years, whether it's WEC for cars or for bikes?
A little bit. There's some shows on Amazon and Netflix or whatever that show some of, like, Gentleman Driver was one thing I watched a lot of. So I kind of got a glimpse into the car side. And then bike side, I kind of pay attention to Suzuka 8 Hours because it's the biggest. And of course, being a Kawasaki fan, last was it 2019 when what did they race this year? Suzuka? I don't think they did. But anyway, I watched Jonathan Ray and them win. That was really cool.
Yeah, I haven't been following it. Like, I don't watch every single endurance race when it happens. Lately, I've been just going through YouTube and just typing like Suzuka endurance race. And I found one from 2017. It was 4 hours of the 8 hours. And I watched part 1 of 2. I go to find part 2 of 2. It doesn't exist. Like, oh no, I just watched a half of an 8 hour race and I can't watch it. I can't finish it. So that kind of
sucks.
So then I found another one that was, it wasn't IMSA. It was WEC. It was cars, sports cars, GR3, GR4 class, and no prototypes, but they were doing 10 hours of Suzuka, 2019. So I was watching that one. I don't know what the best way to watch it yet. If they have a video pass, I haven't found it, but just trying to, I'm working in the background. I'm working on my laptop, just, kind of chilling. So to have something in the background is nice. Take a break here and there and just see what's going on with the race.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that. I do that with MotoGP. I'll go back and watch old seasons.
Yeah.
Like from top to bottom, like, relive the whole season, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just one of those things where when you get racing in your blood a little bit, it's just, you can't get enough of it. And it just doesn't matter what's on. It's like, oh, it's racing. I'll watch it, except for maybe NASCAR.
Everybody's like that. Everybody I know, I was thinking that myself. I was like, oh, except for NASCAR. But
yeah, I can't do that.
But they are going to be going to more road courses, I think, this year or next year, this coming season.
Okay.
And like they'll be doing Mid Ohio probably. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but maybe like Road America, some major sports car courses. And
that would be interesting.
It'll be interesting because, I mean, these are real drivers. They are very talented. But the courses that they go to, for me, I don't care about ovals so much.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those the world's getting smaller type things. I think that goes back to the roots of NASCAR. And being in America, we have a bunch of land, so they know how to make these big oval tracks, and it was just cool to watch cars slide and spit dirt all in the crowd and that kind of thing, which is great. You know, I love a good local dirt track race. You know, NASCAR, as the technology keeps going forward with aerodynamics and that type of thing, and I stopped watching it years ago, but even then, you know, like restrictor plate racing, you know, they're still using carburetors, which I think is impressive.
Yeah.
You know, what is it again, 8,500 RPMs out of a V8. You know, come on, man. That's serious. And it's carbureted. And
Right.
they're getting 900 horsepower. It's ridiculous.
Why would they not want fuel injection?
I think it went back to just the whole nostalgic of the racing. You know, it's just, let's keep it.
Roots.
Yeah, you know, carburation, you know, it's not a bad way of fueling, especially when you're talking flat out. It's all that part throttle stuff where fuel injection is better. So, I mean, really, it's not that less of a technology. It's just, it's old. That's what people call it as. Yeah. And then it's not really stock car racing. You know, let's be honest. Okay. So NASCAR is not stock car anymore. Like, you're not going to go, oh, look at that Mustang shell that's in a cage that I'm never ever going to own, but it's a Mustang, so I'm gonna go buy a Mustang now. That's not really happening.
Yeah, it's hard for them to. I think that's one of the. I'm not sure how the manufacturers feel about it, but once they get too far away from the actual car that you can buy, the manufacturers stop caring as much. But when there's 300 million eyeballs on it, they still care.
Yeah, it's all about them eyeballs, man. I mean, that's the world we live in. They can figure out how to keep butts in the seats and eyeballs on the screen. I think they'll keep doing whatever it is they'll do that.
So I've talked about it before. I'm giving away my ideas because I have too many and not enough time to do it all. And one day I would hope to do this, but how cool would it be if you were, or anybody were to film an amateur race event? So I think this is totally possible to do, like, on-track filming. And with a couple iPhones, a couple cameras, like not a crazy amount. I'm not looking for broadcast level cameras here, because those are going to be $200,000 a piece or whatever it is. So if you could do it grassroots, super low budget, a couple cameras, a couple volunteers to do this 100 times, with a gimbal, so it's nice and steady.
Sure.
That would be a couple $100, maybe $1,000 investment. Say you're not going to have 10 cameras or 10 stations with cameras. You could have maybe five or six.
5 would do it, especially at certain tracks. 5 would be a nice number.
And then you could have, an interview after with the podium finishers, splice it together with all the different cameras. Because normally I've been doing podcasts in person. I would do multi-camera feeds. So that means you start them all at the same time. You sync them with an audio clap or something, and then all synced. And then you could sync them all. It would just take a week for me to edit it. But man, I think that would be so cool. And now you could do all the racetracks around the country with a couple crews of people doing this.
Yeah, you just got to get a co-op going, and people just buy into that, and maybe have a little bit of experience with filming. Because let's face it, not everybody who has an iPhone knows how to actually capture images that are pleasing to watch.
Yeah. It's you have to have some sort of training for the people doing it, but people are going to say, well, nobody's going to watch it. Nobody watches pro racing as it is now. But maybe if they were able to follow these characters like yourself and myself up through the ranks, or even if they stay an amateur, it's a place to watch them. It's a place for your friends and family to actually see what you're doing. I would watch it. And they always say, build something that that fills a need that doesn't exist today. And one of the reasons why there's no money in racing is because there's no coverage in amateur ranks. Like, you see, there's some crazy reality TV shows on TV now. That's like, how the hell they on TV and we can't get a race on TV?
I know it, man. I know it. You're like, who in the frick are you people? I don't even understand how you graduated high school, much less are where you are, and you're going to get paid stupid amounts of money, have your 15 minutes spent. Yeah, all that stuff. I think that is extremely doable. And it's going to be one of those things where you'll start it, you'll get it, you'll do one race or something like that, and you're not going to get any views, but that's okay, because that's how you start. It's that first brick, man. You put that first brick down, and then it takes one person to see that, the right person, and all of a sudden it'll go somewhere. And it's all about the eyeballs, so we got to point the eyeballs at this thing, and then maybe some money will come back into club racing and that type of thing.
Like I would want to do that out of the passion for the sport and growing the sport. And sure, it'd be great to make money and break even, but like I wouldn't try to get rich off of something like that. I just want to do it, you know, and that would be something I would love to do, you know?
I do. I totally get it, man. It's like for someone like me specifically, like if I go through this next year, you know, I try to film stuff of me doing what I'm doing. So obviously, you know, it's like I'm in my tracksuit sort of filming myself like this, right?
Yeah.
And I have no one else there except maybe my kids.
Right.
And you know, let's face it, a 10-year-old isn't always the best at what they're doing with the camera. So you get some so-so footage. But it's something. And some of the footage I haven't actually put together yet. It actually looks pretty neat just because you got that trackside footage. And yeah, man, that would be totally awesome. I wish that there was enough people to get together to do that to where it would make sense and actually come off pretty well. I mean, so like, not to cut in, but Talladega GP, and I know it's something I go there a lot, but because of the size of the track and how it's laid out, you can be all inside the track for most of it. Yeah. And you don't need like one person to be on the outside to catch like some particular corners. And it'd be really easy to film that because it's a short lap. There's always bikes going by, you know, if you pay attention to the leaders or the front runners and that type of thing. I mean, you could, for 10 minutes, you know, it's a 10-minute race there, like a 600 race. You could do it. It wouldn't be that hard. If you went somewhere like Road Atlanta or Road America or some of these sort of like bigger tracks, maybe a little bit more difficult, but a smaller sort of shorter track would be pretty good. Nelson Ledges for you guys up in the Northwest or Northeast, excuse me.
Well, there was one, like some tracks, the nature of them, they're sort of compact. I'm thinking like Grattan Raceway, you can see most of the track from a couple spots.
You could have 3 people do that one and you could catch a lot of the bigger areas. Yeah, definitely.
And sure, you're not going to be getting super zoomed in, like high close-ups, but I mean, you're going to get the action, you're going to get the passes, you're going to see at least what's going on. It's like the next step versus, you know, because you're never going to get a full film crew to film an amateur race. It's just not going to happen. So this is like, well, this could happen. This is a way cheaper way of doing it. I'm not going to have like a trailer with, what do they call it? Like race control, where they're putting everything together at.
Yeah, they got all the feeds going into it.
10, you know, screens and like 4 controllers working it.
Right.
Going to happen. That's going to all be in post-production in my house. You know, it's going to be a week before it's posted.
Yep.
I don't know. It'd be something I thought about, and I wanted to get your opinion on.
Well, you know, I want to race the Weir National Series this year, and that's going to take me up to Pit Race and Summit Point, something like that. So, you know, maybe if you come out, you know, like the day before, the Saturday, I think is the sportsman races. And I'm not going to race those, so I'll just do the practice and like filming the races there. I'll stand on a corner and I have a gimbal and I have a phone. Yeah. So I mean, like, and I do kind of think I understand. Yeah, like we could do it. It'd be 2 of us, but you know, we could do it. I'd be down for that, no problem.
Maybe this will come together, and maybe we'll get at least an event filmed and get a proof of concept.
Yeah, proof of concept is the important thing, you know. And I am in the business world, so a lot of what we're talking about here translates over. You know, you're trying to sell something, you have to get eyeballs. Yeah. So how do you get eyeballs? You have to prove it works. It never fails. You'll tell somebody, "I've got this great idea," and you go tell them what it is, and they sort of go, "Yeah." Nothing. You have to go film it, you know, and then you have to go.
You have to get the approval from the race organization. You have to, you know, be in a safe spot to be able to film it. You know, I actually interviewed a guy called Gray Pham, who's a videographer for Moto America. So
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Maybe he could give me some pointers on this.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, he would definitely be able to help you out as far as who to talk to. You know, at club racing levels, like you go talk to Evelyn Clark. I mean, I'm pretty sure she'd just be like, okay, well, what are you doing with it? Are you trying to make money? Or are you not trying? You know.
Yeah, and then the rights. Who has the rights to it? And then
that type of thing. I mean, honestly, you're just like, look, it helps everybody because you're trying to promote club racing, and frankly, she needs people to promote club racing. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere, and it'll die. And there you go. Florida Motorcycle Road Racing Association, the FMRA. Check out what they're doing, like on Facebook. If you look up their schedule, and then go on their Facebook page, and you watch how they present a day of racing. They have the guys show up on the grid. They have the mic. The guy goes up on Facebook Live and goes, "Here, what do you think you're going to do this today?" And the guy talks away under his helmet and that kind of thing. And then when it's over with, they show back up. They got the podium sitting there and all the guys, and they talk to him. I mean, it's for club racing, it's really cool. If it wasn't 8 or 10 or 12 hours away from me, I'd go do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. And so you're in the Georgia area, South Carolina?
Yeah, I'm about an hour east of the Atlanta airport. So
Okay.
I'm not in Atlanta, but basically I say people I'm in Atlanta. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
I've considered maybe moving to that type of area. I'm in Michigan, so it's snowing here.
Yeah, sorry.
It hurts to go outside without a crazy amount of layers. And I can't wait to be below the snow belt. How'd you decide on Georgia?
Well, it was kind of a job thing. I was, let's see, I got out of the military and I got a job up in the Harrisonburg area of Virginia. So Western Virginia, not West Virginia. And, just doing job things up there eventually led me to a better job, basically, down here in the Atlanta region. And I moved down sort of it'd be 5.5 years now. And I've been here ever since, and I love it. And one of the reasons, I honestly, I looked at where we would be in relation to tracks. Like I did a circumference of tracks, how many tracks were within sort of distance, right? I wanted to say within a 4-hour radius, there's like 6 tracks or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
That run track days, So yeah, you're right here is awesome to be if you're into motorcycle track days. Absolutely.
Well, I guess we have a few. We have like Gingerman, Granton, Mid-Ohio's fairly close. Pittsburgh's fairly close. Indy, but we can't ride there. Mid-Ohio, but we don't race there anymore. Well, I guess they do for amateur, but not for pro anymore because of the
not pro. Yeah, they have it on the calendar for Wiro this year, but not anything Moto America, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Did you see the Moto America calendar? They've got a track up in Minnesota. I didn't even know they had tracks in Minnesota.
I think it's Brainerd, isn't it?
I guess. I don't know. I just blown away the fact that they were going that far north,
Yeah, I mean, they have tracks
I
in
guess
Canada.
it kind of makes sense if you... I know. It was just Canada Superbike Championship or something like that. I'm going like, how many months of the year can you guys ride? Like 3? I don't understand. If snow plows on your bike,
I just interviewed a guy. He said, yeah, it's a short season. It's
I bet.
sometimes, but yeah, they have to worry about snow and ice a lot quicker than we do.
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, if you ever come down from Michigan, it's rough, man. The other day it was so cold I had to put a long sleeve shirt on.
I got one in my basement right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing a thing now just because we don't like turning the heat on.
Yeah.
It's rough. Yeah.
It's very cold. I can't wait to move out of Michigan. But I plan on probably buying a couple houses first before I move outside of Michigan, try to get some rental properties going. And so I'm probably foregoing the next couple of years of racetrack life for buying some houses. But after that, I should have enough income, I hope, to be able to race more.
Well, you're planning ahead, I mean, just because you're not racing doesn't mean you're not moving forward.
Yeah, so and actually, I'm still racing. I'm doing my simulator.
Okay.
Doing the PlayStation 4 games, Gran Turismo stuff. And actually, just the last couple of days, I beat Gran Turismo Sport finally. I was the Lewis Hamilton time trials. Where you try to follow his ghost and try to beat his time. And so there's, bronze, silver, gold, and then Lewis's time.
Right.
I've beaten all of them on gold for his time trials, but I haven't even touched any of his times. I can't even do it after like a couple 100 miles. So an hour or two, just restart.
Oh gosh, dude.
I'm like 2 seconds away from him.
It's only 2 seconds though. I mean, come on.
It's like, where's the, how is he? And you can see it. You see him right in front of you, just pull away every time.
Yep. He just, when people like that, you get up into the higher levels of what they do, they almost can't even tell you how they do it. They just do it, or they did it that one time, realized they could do it, and then they just keep their mouth shut and they just keep doing it.
It's like an intuition mixed with an incredible amount of skill and discipline. But okay, so the thing is with racing, it's not always the most experienced guy who's winning, right? Like Mark Marquez jumping onto the scene, or any of these racers. Sometimes they're really young kids, just phenomenal super talents. And it's not like they're born with it. You can't say they're just born with it. but there is definitely some inherent level of talent there that they've cultivated and made even better.
I think it's a cultivation of adaptation and the willingness to learn. If you can do those two things, I almost want to say you can kind of do anything. Because if you can always adapt and you're always able to learn a new thing, what's holding you back?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, yeah, maybe they're not like Mark, for instance. If he's always learning and adapting and constantly pushing himself, he's always going to be moving the goalposts, and then he's always going to look like he's just got everybody covered.
Yeah.
And he doesn't show you what he does off camera. What is he doing actually? What are all these great guys actually doing? They're constantly pushing themselves, learning, failing. And that's the stuff that no one sees and no one quite understands.
Right. And so, do you get what's the word? A little cagey or a little strategy wise? Do you try to not tell your competition what you're doing, or do you like, here, this is what I'm doing. If you're trying to copy it, go for it.
It depends. I will say yes. There are times that I have certainly kept my mouth shut about something I'm doing or not doing. I've had guys ask me, how much horsepower does my Ninja 300 make? As you build the motor and that type of thing, which I didn't build the motor. And at the time, I kept my mouth shut about it. I was like, we're about equal. A buddy of mine's got an R3. R3s make about 40, 42 horsepower or something like that. And Ninja 300s don't. Okay. But if you know what you're doing with the Ninja 300, you can make a certain, legally make power. And yeah, you can make it just as potent as an R3. So you ask me, what's your horsepower? And I'd be like, we're about the same, or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm competitive. Come on, man. Of course, I'm not going to tell you everything I'm doing,
Sure. Man, I remember I'm pretty open about laps or line choice or, hey, you see that little thing on the road there? Just take that on, I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. And I remember I was at a national and I was talking to my friend who was also a competitor of mine who was, in my mind, he was going to beat me no matter what I said to him.
Sure.
So I'm like, yeah, I followed because I was helping him around the lap because he had never been there. I think we're in middle. Yeah. And I was just giving him some pointers because I did a track day the day before. And my other friend is like, why are you telling him that? Why would you? Don't tell him that. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. He's going to beat me anyway. He's like a second or two ahead of me. I'm sure those 4 words I told him aren't going to make or break it.
Right. Right. And if they did, wow, that's, I need to work on something else,
Sure.
No, I mean, it all depends, if I know that this one area or another is sort of dangerous or not, like on a track like Roebling, it's not necessarily a dangerous track. We did have a guy die there this year, which is incredibly unfortunate. But there are areas that if I know that, hey, don't go over there because it's really bumpy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because I'm trying to, I want you to go there to slow down. I don't want you to go over there because I don't want you to wad it up and throw it in the tire wall.
Right.
But there are other things, like if, I don't know, it depends on the type of relationship you have with some people. If it's somebody that, genuinely is just out there having fun and that type of thing. Sure, man. Yeah, I do this, I do that. I run this tire pressure in these tires, or whatever. But yeah, if I'm actually competing, if it's for actual wins, yeah, I'll probably keep my mouth shut about some things.
Yeah.
Just depends.
It's normal though. It's the competitive nature of all of us trying to maximize your gains and not give anything away to the next guy. It's natural.
Yeah, I mean, I've been behind guys. I'm like, hey man, show me a line around this track, and you go out there and you're like, dude, you're 3 seconds off of pace. What are you doing? I'm not stupid, okay? Like I get it. You're running whatever times, and now you're not running those times. What are you showing me? You're not showing me anything. Like I'm having to slow down behind you, okay? Yeah. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's I mean, to each their own, right? I would always go out with a good friend of mine. We were in different classes, so we weren't competing against each other. Right? I don't have a name for it, but we would just go out and every time I could, I would show him a wheel. So I'm not going to try to pass you, but anytime that I think that I can, I'm going to just show you a wheel here and show you that I could pass you if I wanted to. And then I'm going to give you the corner. I'm just going to back off. I'm not going to try to. And so we would do this lap after lap. I'd show him a corner here, and then he would do the same thing to me. He would try to show me a wheel anywhere that he could. And we were similar pace. So I think, I remember him telling me he dropped 2 or 3 seconds in that 20-minute practice session, just because we would go back and forth, trying to pass each other, so to speak. And it was very helpful because you're not
Yeah, man.
that information from your competitor who's saying, hey, you're not fast enough here.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where you just have a good relationship with people. I look at Rossi and Morbidelli. Actually, I was just watching. excuse me, I was just watching. What was it? The Mazzano races this year, and let's see, it was the first race, and them two guys were just going at it. The first couple laps or whatever, and they go around that track like a billion times a year.
Yeah.
And they're constantly riding with each other at the ranch and that type of thing. There's not a whole lot that they don't know about each other. Okay, I mean, if they're holding anything back, I don't know what you could hold back at that level that would make that much of a difference. But it's just literally at that point, hey man, I dare you to beat me.
Right.
I dare you to go faster than me. If you can, freaking hats off to you, because that was incredible, because I'm doing the maximum I can, And that, to get that kind of relationship, I think is fantastic. And that's where having a good team, comes into play. You got to surround yourself with the right people and that type of thing. So, and it's hard to find.
Yeah, and I got to give credit and hats off to Rossi for starting this academy. What a great thing to do, and what
man,
he's creating, and also, it's such a hard thing for anybody at a top level of any sport to say, you know what, I think that people could be better than me, and I want to learn from other people, because he's not only teaching others, he's learning from them and getting the best guys coming up and training him also, right? Because he's getting to train with Morbidelli and all these other people who are really pushing him to be his best too.
Oh yeah, and just having that youth around him, I think, is the other side. Like, I'm 36, right? People don't necessarily peg me for being in my mid 30s. They might say I'm sort of in my late 20s or whatever. And I kind of do that on purpose, because I want to, not be that guy who's like, oh, I'm old. Yeah. Oh, I'm old. It's like, no, age is a number. Okay. And that's another reason why I like losing all this weight. People sort of go, wow, you're that old and you're able to do this. It's like, no, stop it. Okay. You're limiting yourself. And that's ridiculous. Get around, the younger group, stop thinking old, if you will. Just keep your mind fresh, always be learning, that type of thing. And Rossi I think he's gained more from them than they are from him at this point. Eventually it'll turn around, but yeah, look at these guys, Pecco Bagnaia and who is his brother, Luca and Morbidelli, and these guys, look at how they race. They are not, Pecco, especially when watching his Moto2 championship year. I mean, that guy, when he got out in front, he was metronomic. Yeah. You couldn't touch him. And then when they did get into a fight, they were ruthless. It's like, it's having that balance. It's fantastic. Lorenzo was great for being metronomic, but wasn't always so ruthless. He did in his Ducati years. He got a little bit, he got the elbows out, if you will. But, Franco's win at Valencia, at the end of the year with against Jack, he was just like, I didn't even know what I was doing. I just threw the bike in and hope it stuck. That's fantastic. I live for watching guys do that. That is just absolutely, they're just all in. I don't care. I'm gonna throw it to the trees. Doesn't matter.
There's no room for error. It's 100%. It's fully committed. They're not leaving anything on the table.
Yeah. That's what we want to see. It's great to watch a guy just run off at the front and just go, wow, that's really impressive. But at the same time, you kind of want to see a dogfight. I want to see a guy.
Yeah, you can't say the Yamaha is trash when they just won.
Yeah, that's the other side of it too. I kind of was a little bit pissed at Yamaha early this part of this year, because I'm an M1 fan. I love the M1. But they just made some really stupid mistakes. But you have to give it to them. When that bike is in its operating window, that's hard to beat, man. You can't hardly touch it. So it is a good machine. It just has an extremely narrow operating window.
Yeah, and they so for so many years it's been at the front, and now KTM is stepping up and Aprilia is stepping up. It'd be cool to see Kawasaki back one day, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen, especially
I don't think they're going to do it, man. I mean, you got Jonathan up there just racking up.
They're like, yeah, we don't need to. We got
why? They're making all their money off it. They're not putting any money into a prototype machine. The ZX10, if you look at the actual showroom floor bike and you go, wow, it's 16 grand or, whatever, 16.2 or something like that. It's the cheapest leader bike out there, yet it has all the recent World Superbike wins, except for one in the last 7 years or something like that, or 8 years. And you're just like, dang, man, it's just they're not trying to push the boat out yet, because they don't have to. Everybody else is Ducati with the V4R. Think about that for a second. They came out with the V4R, $40,000 machine, street machine, put it in the hands of a incredible rider, but then the rider cracked. You know, I mean, that's what happened. The machine should have beat Jonathan Rea. There's just in 2018, Jonathan didn't have a chance. He was going to be second in every race, et cetera, and he was for the first half of the year. But then the rider cracked. Yeah. And then the next year, well, Redding's going to come and he's going to do Redding, for whatever reason, has a harder time adapting, or I shouldn't say adapting because he won the VSB championship. He has a harder time staying in the window. And Rea doesn't need to. He's with the same bike, basically, the same crew, the same tires. I mean, Kawasaki doesn't need to go to MotoGP. They don't need to.
A lot of money for them for a marginal gain because they're already at the top of another class.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at the motor itself, I'm on the ZX10 forums because I had a ZX10, and I'm listening to the guys, reading the guys talk about, what they're going to do and upgrading, like the new machine came out and that type of thing. And I think it's fantastic that Kawasaki basically didn't do a whole lot. They upped the revs, which they needed to, because let's face it, super bikes nowadays are getting to that place where it's, 1,000 cc's, okay? It can only take in X number of cubic feet of air, and you can only put in this much fuel. So you're only going to get this much power. So the only way to make that go up is by increasing the rev limit, which is what Ducati did with the V4.
Or, weight reduction components, things like that.
Yeah, and even then they're limited. They can only go but so light. They're getting right to that limit, but they've let everybody else show their cards. Everybody else has done improvements, and Honda came out with the CBR, the 1000 RRR, which ironically, if you look at it, it's built a lot like a ZX10 in the motor and how it makes its power and how they set up the machine. It looks a lot like a ZX10 because Honda's not stupid. But anyway, yeah, you look at all these machines and how they're Suzuki's with their variable cam timing, like that is innovative. Yeah. Suzuki is a great machine. I don't know why they're not in World Superbike, but the Gixxer 1000, is just an incredible accomplishment for a 1000. And ZX10 doesn't have that. It doesn't have variable valve timing. It doesn't have variable velocity stacks, and all the other craziness. In fact, it has probably one of the most undersquare motors. It's not actually undersquare, but it's got the longest crank throw out of a lot of these big super bikes. The R1 has a shorter crank throw than that. So the R1 makes more peak horsepower and peak RPM, but the ZX10 just works better because they found the combination and they stick with what they know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where going back to MotoGP is the M1, they got away from that. That's right. What happened.
Yeah, and they're changing so many things at once. It's hard to know what worked and what didn't, and all these different things. And I've even seen the 600 class bike is price point at $10,000 now for the Kawasaki ZX6R, which is phenomenal for a major bike like that that's performing so well to be, even 36 cc's or 37 cc's higher than the next manufacturer's bike. I love it.
It's allowed in the class rules. Some people go, it's cheating. It's allowed. I don't understand how you don't understand that that's not a problem. So if everybody else wants to go faster, they should probably add some cc's.
Yeah, why not? And so you're picking on the fact that they can't exceed the cc's or how much fuel or air they can actually take on. Do you think there will be, or there should be, or you want to have a class above 1,000 cc's, and what does that look like?
Man alive. So we kind of have seen that a little bit, the 1100 V4. And I mean, they should, but as far as racing goes, I don't know, because especially in Superbike, those machines are already very close to
300 horsepower or so.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, man, okay, well, let's back up a few years, right? In 2015, I think it was Jonathan's first championship, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was his first championship. They had the new bike, but it was not new yet. Okay. The Superbike machine was basically the 2016, version. And they had split throttle bodies and that type of thing, where basically they, one pair of throttle bodies would open while the other was shut mid corner and crazy things like that. The machines back then were doing 250 horsepower. That's 5 years ago. And look at where we're at now. They've done all these things to make it better. I don't know what that would look like. Honestly, I think that again, you'd get into that sort of horsepower race. The manufacturers would have to start developing machines, you know, at another rate. I don't know, but yeah, we're bumping into a limit. Something's got to change at some point. I kind of have this like wishful thinking that the 750 class would come back. I can kind of see that. Like imagine like they did with the 990cc, you know, MotoGP bikes, and they brought them down to 800. You know, they still did 220 miles an hour. They weren't slow.
Right.
And I wish it would kind of go like that.
Well, you know, it's changing. It's not so much the 600 class anymore, and it's not so much the 250 class anymore, right? It's a 400, it's a 636, and the Moto 2 class is not a 600 class. It's a 750, it's a 765 triple.
Right. Which has actually made MotoGP prospects much better, because now they get on a machine and they can understand how to steer the bike with the throttle. You know, with the CBR motor, they were going through corners flat out. You can't do that on a 675. You'll spit yourself off. So it has helped MotoGP racing. Now I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years. You know, like the R6, for instance, is no longer going to be street legal.
Yeah.
You buy it, it's a track bike, you know, which is nice, I think, because frankly, a lot of guys buy those just to track them. But yeah, they've hit the limit. Yamaha's like, well, I don't know what else to do. We can't meet the sort of emissions requirements. So what now? You know, they're hitting that limit. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the 600 market to begin with. It's already not profitable, but
I'm all for having street bikes and all that. I want freedoms, and I don't want those things to be taken away. But man, there's no reason to have a 160 mile an hour machine for the street. Like,
no,
I got in trouble because I had a bike like that in the street. And when I get back to street riding, I might get a 400. I don't know, because that still goes 110 miles an hour.
Yeah, you feel like the world's on fire. You know, it's so loud too. You put a pipe on it and you're like, yeah, it's awesome. And you look down and it's doing 90. You know, it's not bad. You know, I've taken my 300 out on a little around the block kind of like riding or whatever, and especially knowing now, or knowing what I know now, I would be perfectly content with that. The only place I would kind of be a little bit like is when you get out on some faster roads, you know, where the average speed is a little bit higher. I'd like to have some power to, you know, stay out of trouble or get in trouble, depending. But yeah, you know, that's the only place that it would be any kind of missing of the power. But yeah, right now, dude, you don't. Well, let's back up. The 1000s from 10 years ago, the motors, the chassis, the everything about that machine, those machines were not set up to go racing. You know, like the R1 is a great example. The 2009 to 2014 R1, that machine it was so dumbed down from the factory. It had a 5-pound doggone counterweight in it. You know, like the new R1 has a 2.5 pound or 2.2 pounds or something like that. You know, that's for racing. You know, and that's why that machine is good. Whereas with the other bike, it costs you $100,000 just to make it anywhere near the new bike. But nowadays, you jump on these things and they're already missiles.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yep.
Good to go from the factory floor. So let's talk about any possible sponsors you might have, anybody who's helped you out over the past couple of years.
Yeah, the big ones are really the ones that came on this last year. 1X USA is the suit I wear, and I've been sponsored by suit companies in the past. I rode for Comet Racing there for a while, or Comet Leathers, or Comet Racing Leathers, whatever. And you know, the textile industry it's another one of those like processed food type industries. You know, it's very lucrative if you know how to make money in it, and one of the ways you make money in it is by not actually having high quality stuff. So after a couple of years with Comet, I realized what I was actually using and decided that's not where I wanted to be. So having looked around at all the different ones that are out there, 1X USA had the quality and they had the look, and I knew Daniel Payne down here, he's the actual USA rep for them. So good people. I asked them, you know, if there are any opportunities, and they had something for me. So I was able to get on board with them. And yeah, it's a fantastic suit company. It is a little bit more expensive, but I mean, when you wreck, you kind of want like good stuff on your body.
For sure.
So, yeah, it's kind of important. And they're really great to work with.
They always say that you should spend the most money on your protective gear in your suit, because if you don't spend it on your suit, you're just going to spend it on hospital bills.
Yes, and I can attest to that. So
it's way cooler to have nice stuff.
Yeah, I would rather be riding around them just like I am right now. I've got a suit that's worth probably, you know, a third of my bike, if you will. And but that's fine, you know what? Because I know when I go down, it's going to hold up. It's not going to tear up on me, you know. And the other folks that have really been helpful, especially this year, have been Blood Racing Lubricants. You know, they're kind of new to the scene, if you will, but they do a lot of motor racing, you know, lubricants and oils and that type of thing. And you know, they definitely have a good program. The oils I've ran in both my machines, zero weight oils that I was a little bit nervous about at first because it's zero weight, you know.
Wow.
And I did have a motor failure this year, but it wasn't because of the oil. I can actually put my hand on the Bible and say that. But you know, the quality of the oil for the price you're getting it at, and that type of thing. The fact that it's more U.S. based organization. Now, the oil, you know, comes from all over the world, but the actual organization is in the U.S. and I like supporting that. So they've been really good to me.
And so what are some of the benefits with having a zero weight oil? What does that help you with?
So zero weight oils, really it's about how thick the oil is. Okay, so when you see something that's marked, you know, 10W-40, whatever, the 10W part is the weight of the oil. It's how thick it is, the viscosity, if you will. So when you're racing, you know, you don't want any friction. Friction is the enemy. Friction creates heat. Friction creates or slows things down. So inside the motor, I don't want any friction. I want to have, you know, that motor spinning as free as possible, so I don't waste power from the combustion, you know, pushing the transmission or pushing the piston down. So running a zero weight oil is extremely beneficial for that. You know, like you can, the first time I put it in the 600 especially, I had Motul 10W40 in it before. So I dropped all that out and put the zero weight in, and I could tell immediately from just shifting the transmission, it was like glass. I couldn't believe it.
Easy.
And I honestly, I know it sounds like I'm saying that, but that's real. You know, I do my own kind of suspension on the suspension work on the forks and stuff like that. And I can tell you the difference between, you know, two different weights of oil there. So I absolutely saw the difference in the motor, just in transmission shifting.
Okay, very cool. It's amazing that all these tiny little things, they do actually have effects on how the whole system works.
Yeah, it's really just something that it removes the question from your mind. It's not so much that, oh man, I gained, you know, half a second on the straightaway because I have zero weight. No, it's, you're not like, I don't know. I overthink things. Okay. Like that's who I am. So if I can take my brain out of the equation more than, and the more free I am to ride, the better I ride. You know, if something's bothering me, but I don't know what it is, I start changing stuff. So people call me a Tinkerbell for that. But I've learned a lot about what my feelings mean and what I can do to change those. So over the last couple of years where I've tinkered, gone slow, but tinkered and kept persisting, I've learned a lot about how to tune my own suspension, how to set up my bike exactly the way I want it, what different tires feel like. That's another one. Gosh, man, you talk about tires, that's like, that's politics, you know, basically for track day riders.
You've been a Pirelli man?
Yeah, I've ridden Pirellis for like 4 or 5 years now. And I've jumped on different tires. I've rode Bridgestones, Michelins, and Dunlops, and all the other ones. The only ones I haven't ridden that I would like to would probably be Continentals, just to see, because they're new. I don't know anything about them. But Pirellis, man, just for the feeling of grip, you know what I'm talking about, like the actual adhesion to the tarmac. I have yet to find something else that feels the same. They give up a little bit in life, but I would rather have the outright grip and know that if I chuck it in this corner and I screw it up, you know, that tire's going to be there. And the other side of it too is the way the front tire works. Dunlops are a very hard tire. You know, they don't really like to be pushed, you know, past their limit. Michelins aren't bad, but they're a little bit thin on the carcass, and they like to have a lot of air pressure in them. Pirellis are ones where it's kind of a blend. Got a lot of rubber, but they do run a higher pressure, but you can just push that tire and you can fold it right over and you go, oh, there's the limit. And you just sort of, you know, open the throttle, get the weight off the front again and keep going. Bridgestones were just vague for me. So, but for outright grip and feel, Pirellis, man, they're just, I don't know another tire yet that's better than them for me, you know.
Yeah. And you're running full slicks or DOTs?
I've ran everything. I've ran the track days. I've run the slicks. I've run the DOTs. I actually threw a set of, track days on my Ninja 300 and dropped a significant amount of time. This is where I'm going to be cagey, not tell you how much time, but I dropped a significant amount of time off of my Carolina Motorsports Park lap, and like enough to where I am easily on the podium if not fighting for a win, just from throwing those tires on a week after I had run Bridgestones. You know, and I did the gearing, like I matched the gearing up because they were different size and that type of thing. But yeah, man, just that confidence. That's one of those things where I didn't know that I was missing something there, but it was just one of those feelings, you know, that you can't put your finger on. You get off the bike, you're like, I feel like I can't go any faster.
Right.
Threw those set of tires on, go out there, dude, and I was banging in laps. And I mean, like within a tenth of a second of each other, you know, all of it podium pace. And I'm just going like, oh crap. All right. This is what we're doing from now on. This is fantastic.
And so what is the difference between your 300 and your 1000 as far as lap times? How far are you away?
Okay. So when I was riding my 1000, all right, and I went to Carolina Motorsports Park, fastest time I ever turned around Carolina Motorsports Park was 154 and change. Okay. That's sort of decent intermediate group pace. All right. You know, to actually be winning races on that bike, you probably need to be turning like a 39 or something like that. Right. Because that's a fast track.
Yeah.
On my 300, I matched that time.
Okay.
Okay. So just to give everybody an idea, like, you just because, you know, you see a guy on a 300, and I've had this happen. I've gone out there, been in the hot pits, and I'm on a 300 in advanced group. I'm looking around, and everybody else is on, you know, 600s or thousands, mostly thousands. And they sort of look at you like that, and then you start riding. Of course, they're going to blow by you in straightaway. But as soon as you get to the corners, they park it. And I'm getting behind them like, you guys, you gotta be freaking kidding me, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll get up right next to them. I'll get right beside them and just look over at them as they're going along, and they get out of the corner and look a bit, what? I'm just like, hey, and they and take off. And they go, oh, okay. That's what corner speed is, you know? So 300s are fun for that.
Oh yeah. It's humbling when you see some guy on a bike smaller than you passing you or something like that. It's like, what is he doing? How is he?
What are you even doing right here? Yeah. I got some video, actually with my latest video on YouTube, there was a guy on SV650 that we were playing cat and mouse a little bit, you know, sort of the end of the day. And yeah, he'd go by me straight away, you know, because he's got twice the power and that type of thing. But he just wasn't going fast in the corners. And especially this one part of the track, you know, there's like 3 corners all together, where on my bike, you know, I gap everything else just because it's so small and I'm pinned, and you know, 600s are trying to put the power down, that type of thing. And yeah, sure enough, in a lap, you know, I got away from him. I pulled a solid, you know, I don't know, 20-second in front of him, just from, you know, exploiting my strengths and not being too bad on my weaknesses.
Oh yeah. Well, very good, man. That's about an hour and 42 minutes we got so far.
Whew.
Let's cap it here. And is there any parting words you want to say to the world, or anything you want to leave the world with?
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, this is a crazy year, and everybody thinks it's going to end, you know, in what is it, a few days or whatever. Our world is going to keep ticking on. You know, the biggest thing is, I think that people need to just stop being afraid, you know, of life. You know, this isn't the first time the world has come into sort of a grinding halt, if you will.
Yeah.
I can think of one particular instance, 1929, that was a lot worse than this. But anyway, you know, just stop giving into fear. You know, that's probably the most crippling thing that there is. And you know, I'm a Christian, okay? So in my faith, I look to God for everything and all things, you know. And he tells us, you know, he didn't give us a spirit of fear, but he gave us, you know, one of strength and of sound mind and of self-control and this type of thing. So just don't buy into it, man. The fear is not really healthy in any way. So just drop the fear. And I think that we can all get about our lives and it'll get better.
Very good. Sounds like a good message. Thank you so much for coming on and rambling with me for almost 2 hours. And
no problem, man.
Edited and posted in the next week or two. Make sure you tag and copy everybody who we've talked about in this and share it to them so they can see as many eyeballs as possible.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I appreciate it. I'll get this posted, and I'll talk to you real soon.
Eric, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Have a great one, man. Bye-bye.
You too.
Hey, I was just telling myself I wanted to do an ad for my business of all the products that I sell, because there's so many that we've been adding over the last few weeks and months and years that it's just hard to recap them all. So real quickly, I'm not going to remember everything off the top of my head, but some of the things that are online right now that you can buy are Akrapovic exhausts. We have Spark exhausts. We have M4 performance exhausts. We have Motul suspension setup tools.
version 4, the latest one that's out. Unfortunately, there's a delay in shipment again from overseas, but those should be back in next month or two. We also have Jim O'Neill, so O'Neill motocross gear. We have Azonic, we have Blur Optics, which are motocross goggles that have a really cool feature that they have a magnetic connection for the goggles, so you can swap your lens really quickly with it's just magnetic, so there's no tools involved at all. We have OGO, which is, as everybody knows, the luggage and backpacks and everything, which are awesome and have gear bags for when you're traveling, which as you're racing you're always traveling. What are some other? Azonic, maybe I mentioned this, but Azonic mountain bike parts. Not everything is listed for this brand, but it's online very soon. Let's see, some of the other brands. We have Moto D, so Moto D Racing, and they have tire warmers and rear stands, Bonamici Italian sport bike parts, and rear sets, handlebars, clip-ons, and we also have Driven Racing. Driven has all kinds of hard parts, so fuel caps, sprockets, things of that nature. Also for Moto D, we have IRC quick shifters, so up and down blippers, which are very handy to save you time on every lap. We also have STS, so sport bike transport stands for your trailer. Those are pretty handy. Some of the other brands would be Easy Grip tank grips. So for every modern sport bike, we have tank grips available. Let's see. We do have used takeoff tires available in Michelin. I think we have some Pirelli and Dunlops left, and I think we have 7 more that I haven't even inventoried yet. Let's see. So there's a lot of stuff that we sell. We sell over a couple thousand items. We have access to well over 10,000 products, but not all of them are listed for sale yet. Some of those that aren't listed are the car parts that we have. So we have Carvin, we have Cosmos racing wheels, and Carvin would be exhausts for cars. Cosmos racing wheels, wheels for cars and trucks. We also have BC Racing, which are suspension parts. Angry Acorns is Subaru wide body kits. And these are all going to be for sale on my website, ericswanracing.com, and shopesr.com. And I could keep rambling on for a while of all the things that we sell, but we're just trying to get it all listed. It takes a long time to get all this stuff listed properly for sale with the right descriptions and everything. So please be patient, but we're working on it and trying to get podcasts out as much as possible. So trying to provide some original content for you. So let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. Thanks for listening and watching. Peace.
Hey, just a quick message. Please head over to my YouTube channel and follow on YouTube under ericswanracing.com podcast. And it's also under youtube.com/emusic2010. It was an old username I haven't been able to change on there yet. So you can always search for Eric Swahn Racing on YouTube, and go ahead and subscribe and follow and click that bell icon so you're notified when we post new videos. Thank you.